Welcome back to the Two Blues podcast into a brand new Premier League season. It is so good to be back and for the first match day, the first game week of this Premier League campaign. It is a huge game. Manchester City visiting Stamford Bridge, the toughest test we could face on our first game of the season. So let's get into it. Let's talk team news. Let's give a live match preview. The game is going live in 1 hour. We won't be doing a watch along, but we will be doing, as always, as last season, a live match reaction. So make sure to like, make sure to comment and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. But let's get into it. And the big news from this team and from the team news is the omission of Raheem Sterling from the squad in its entirety. His team has already come out and made a statement saying they are not happy about it. Now, we had heard links of Raheem Sterling going to Juventus. They have apparently been quashed, but this is now a big stumbling block in terms of his place in this Chelsea squad. Enzo Maresca, has been fairly vocal in terms of why Chilwell is on his way out, why players don't play. But Raheem Sterling, we haven't heard anything negative about him. And out of the blue today, like I said, his team have had to come out and make a statement. As a camp, we've always had positive dialogue with and assurance from Chelsea in relation to Raheem's future. We're looking to gain clarity on the situation. They mentioned that he'd obviously trained, he'd been fit, he'd been part of the team during pre-season, and now not in the squad is a surprise to them. We'll run through the squad very quickly. Disappointing that there's no start for Pedro Neto. Although, obviously, given the fact that he's only been with the squad kind of 3-4 days, I'm not surprised. But Cole Palmer straight back in there. Cucurella straight back in there. And we'll lead from the back in Robert Sanchez. At right back, Malo Gusto, obviously filling in for Reece James, who is suspended after at the back end of last season getting a red card. 3 games, I believe he will be out, even though he is back in training. He did have a hamstring injury, but hopefully he'll be back after those 3 games are served. Centre-back pairing of Wesley Fofana. Great to see him back. And obviously Levi Colwill. Fantastic to see him. I have always maintained and will continue to maintain future club captain, future England captain. I think Levi Colwill, this is a big season for him. He didn't really hit the heights. I think he's got the potential of, William Saliba. I think he could be that good, but, we're seeing players like Jarrell Kwanzaa push through, nail down a starting position and make good on that. We haven't really seen much progress from Levi Colwill since, his standout season with Brighton. So hopefully this is a big season for him. Obviously, defense has been tough defense has been the sticking point in pre-season so far. So it'll be interesting to see how that centre-back pairing of Fofana and Colwill hold up against Erling Haaland and co today. Obviously, Cucurella straight back in at left back. And it'll be interesting to see how we shape up with all 3 midfielders playing, Lavia, Caicedo and Enzo. Now, I said that Enzo Maresca had a tough decision to make, thought one of those would miss out. I thought Caicedo, in my opinion, would be the most likely of the 3, given his match sharpness compared to the other 2. But Enzo Maresca's gone with a solid base, a solid spine in midfield, and I'm not mad at it. I mean, I probably would have opted for a more attacking option, maybe dropping one of Lavia and Caicedo. As I mentioned, I personally would have gone with dropping Caicedo out, maybe put somebody else in that attacking lineup. We've only gone with a front 3 instead of, a front 3 and an attacking number 10. But that front 3 is Palmer, Jackson and Nkunku. Not surprised Nkunku's playing. Not surprised that Palmer is back in that starting lineup either. I am a little bit surprised that Jackson is straight back in the starting lineup though, because he hasn't had that many minutes in pre-season. He had a bit of an injury concern with Senegal, which meant he missed the large part of the pre-season in the US. Only got his first minutes against Inter Milan. But back leading the line, and fantastic to see, the fact that we haven't signed a striker yet, even though there is talks of João Felix, Osimhen, a lot of talk around first team strikers and another move for Chelsea. But Nicholas Jackson has all my backing, has all the potential, I think, to fill that gap alongside Nkunku. And, onto the bench, we have got Madueke, Mudryk, Neto, all great wide options to come off. I'd say Mudryk is probably the weakest of the 3 at the moment in terms of form. Obviously, Pedro Neto is a little bit difficult to suggest with him not having played for Chelsea before, but I said when he signed, I think he will be a starter in this Chelsea lineup. He just needs to get adjusted to this team. And hopefully he'll get his first minutes coming on as a sub today. But the rest of the bench, Jorgensen, obviously new signing in goal. We'll get onto that in a little bit. Badiashile, Tosin, Vega, Dewsbury Hall, Neto, Mudryk, Madueke, and Gui. So no Chilwell, no Sterling. Both of those players have been ousted. No Broja, no Chalobah, obviously no Gallagher, no Lukaku. A lot of high wage earners not in that team. But I just want to touch on the goalkeeper, and feel free to weigh in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about this goalkeeper. I had a bad feeling that Sanchez would be the number one today due to the fact that he played against Inter Milan. I thought even though Jorgensen got his first minutes against Madrid and didn't look too shabby, I mean, I know he didn't have too much to do, didn't really make too many saves. I thought he was fairly solid. I thought he was better at, with the ball at his feet and made the defense feel more comfortable when we were playing around at the back and building up from the back. I don't feel that same level of comfort when Sanchez is in goal. And I do kind of worry that may be an issue for us today, particularly with how City pressed us. I did not like Sanchez in goal against City in preseason. And I know it's preseason. I was hopeful going out and getting a new keeper, we would see a little bit of change, but it looks like Sanchez is going to start and going to keep that number one position. If we're choosing him for Man City, the biggest test of the season, I doubt he's going to lose that place anytime soon unless he has an absolutely calamitous performance. But again, not the ideal situation, I think, for Chelsea's goalkeepers. I would like to have a number one who I'm comfortable with, who I think we don't really have to worry about in terms of the position. We know he's a nailed-on starter every single week. I thought bringing in a new keeper in Jorgensen, that might be the case, but obviously Maresca is still more comfortable with Sanchez. Interesting to see how that plays out today. Hopefully, like I said, with that City press, there is not too much, concern, but I've got to say with the back four, Marc Cucurella coming back into this Chelsea side, not having played too much in pre-season due to his involvement with the Euros. And then you've got that centre-back pairing. I've got a lot of hope for both Fofana and Colwill. I think they both have a lot of potential. I think experience is needed in the center of defense, particularly in kind of a game like this when you're opening. I mean, you look at that City side who are stacked and always will be stacked, that they could have not played together all pre-season and they will still cause problems. Obviously, Savinho getting his debut today is one of the big one of the headlines, with Grealish relegated to the bench. I think he may have had a hamstring injury, but it's a very strong side. Ederson, Lewis, Akanji, Diaz, Guardiola, Kovacic, De Bruyne back in the team, Bernardo, who I think is a criminally underrated player. I know how much people rate him, but I still think he is criminally underrated. That is how good he is. And then you've got Doku, Savinho, and Haaland. And that front three is quick, and they will cause Chelsea problems, particularly if we are messing around at the back. And we need to get a good couple of spells of possession in early so that there is no big mistake early on that leads to kind of a dent in confidence, because we have seen in this Chelsea side how confidence-based, how morale-based they are. One big mistake at the back and it all comes crumbling down. And that is something that we cannot afford to do in the first game of the season, and obviously something we can't afford to do against Man City. Today is a chance for us to lay out a marker. Last season, while we were very inconsistent in the most part, when we came up against the big teams, the majority of the time we went toe-to-toe. Manchester City twice we went toe-to-toe. I think we got 2 draws. The 4-4 was absolutely sublime. How that Chelsea side managed to dig out and score 4 goals against Manchester City, I don't know. Will we be able to do it again today? I don't know. I can see us conceding 4 again. We conceded 4 in pre-season against Man City. Although it's not pre-season, it's a different kettle of fish. This Chelsea team does not look 100% complete, 100% harmonious. They don't look like they have fully incorporated, fully integrated into playing with each other. And obviously you've got, like I said, players like Palmer and Cucurella coming back into this Chelsea side. But focusing on the positives very quickly, obviously that front three, Palmer, Nkunku, Jackson, fantastic to have Nkunku back. The 2 players that I said in a short the other day I was really excited to see for Chelsea this season: Christopher Nkunku, Romeo Lavia. I think those 2 players, I think they both have so much potential, so much talent. And if we can keep them injury-free, if we can keep them fit this year, they will both cook. They will both have huge seasons. We saw Christopher Nkunku in limited games for Leipzig in his last season, still claiming the Golden Boot with 16 goals. You know, the guy has a phenomenal goals to minute ratio. I think in Chelsea, you know, in his first 90 minutes with Chelsea, which was spread over over the course of 4 or 5 cameo appearances, he had 3 or 4 goals. He makes real good contributions. He had a real big impact when he came on and when he was utilized off the bench previously. He's never been able to nail down kind of a consistent starting run in this team due to injury. Hopefully this is the season where that changes. You know, he's had a whole preseason without problem with this squad to get ready, scored 3 or 4 goals. A couple of them were from the spot, but that's not what impresses me most about Nkunku. It's his footwork, his technical ability in and around the box, the driving runs, the ability to create space and to create something different and interesting. He's always looking for the $1 million pass, and he's capable of doing it as well. Kind of, I love to see him, and it looks like today we're going to see him off the left with Nicholas Jackson up top. That may well change. You know, we did see Nicholas Jackson operate off the left under Pochettino. It may well be Nkunku in that central striking role. I personally feel like his best position in an ideal world is slightly deeper, you know, in behind in a number 10, because it does give him that Hazard-esque freedom to kind of just float about, do what he wants, go where he feels he is necessary. You know, he is a player that is undoubtedly good enough to be able to find the space, to know where is best and where is the most dangerous position. He has that striker's instinct, you know, to be in the right place at the right time, but also the creative and technical flair to be able to kind of drop back and be the one to create something and make something happen a little bit deeper. You know, Chelsea, I said time and again last season, you know, Cole Palmer is that guy that is able to unlock defenses, you know, to pick the lock with that eye of the needle pass in and around the box. Nkunku is operating on a similar wavelength in the respect that he has that vision, he has that ability to, you know, make those 2-3 player, you know, those triangles in and around the box work. And I think he's going to be a crucial part of any sort of charge we have this season. You know, obviously we've kind of already said that winning the Europa Conference League is a must. It is a guarantee. It needs to happen. That is the bare minimum requirement for our involvement in that competition. I'd like to see a domestic trophy, a domestic cup this year. I'd like to see us get top 4. I'd like to see us get Champions League next year. These are quite high expectations, particularly when you consider the quality of a lot of teams around us. You know, we saw last night a lot of quality in Aston Villa, West Ham. I think Spurs are going to improve with Solanke. I think Liverpool, Arsenal, obviously Man City, they're all going to be in and around the conversation, and a few more clubs could well surprise us. But like I said, we've seen how inconsistent Chelsea are, and today needs to be a big marker, a statement of intent of, you know, we are not going to get steamrolled, because I've been to Stamford Bridge multiple times and watched Chelsea get absolutely battered. You know, 3-0, 4-0, times where De Bruyne, Aguero have just picked us apart. And we haven't seen that same level of dominance in the last season or so. Like I said, Chelsea last season were able to go toe-to-toe with the biggest sides. Manchester City on 2-3 occasions, you know, at Wembley once and twice in the Premier League, as far as I remember. You know, we are able to pull it out when we are the underdog. And I feel like that will play a big part today. I feel like those players are going to have to be definitely in the right mind space. You know, like I said, I've already named 3 players in Christopher Nkunku, Romeo Lavia and Wesley Fofana that have barely played. When was the last time they started for Chelsea? You know, Christopher Nkunku might be a bit more recently, but Romeo Lavia and Wesley Fofana haven't started for Chelsea in the Premier League for definitely over a season. So I don't think Romeo Lavia has ever started for Chelsea in the Premier League. So this is going to be a big test for a lot of these players, but we already knew that. You know, and coming into the game, Man City, no one is under any illusions. This is going to be a huge test, and only the best will do. Only a top performance. We have to be so disciplined at the back. That back 4 is what I am going to be watching so intently today. But also the midfield. You know, those 3 midfielders have the ability when playing together to control a midfield. And I'm really hopeful that obviously having Lavia and Caicedo in there today gives Enzo a little bit more freedom to kind of move forward. Not too far, because, you know, we saw when Poch was playing him effectively as a 10 last season, it really didn't work. You know, Enzo Fernandez in and around the box isn't that guy. You want Cole Palmer and Kunku. You want those ones to be there, those guys, those players to be there to create those opportunities. But Enzo Fernandez sitting a little bit deeper, with that protection behind him. So he doesn't really have to do the defensive work. He is able to do it. He's a quality player. But what we want him to focus on is his distribution, is getting the ball and dictating the play. Whenever he is getting the ball in the middle, he should be looking forward, looking to get us on the attack, looking to move forward, ideally in transition as well. He's going to be the one that is picking those passes, putting them forward, putting Palmer, putting Nkunku, Jackson into the channels. And later, when Madueke, Mudryk, Neto come on, I think we are getting to the point where we have great depth, I think, with youngsters, but we're also getting to the point where, there were times even last season where I was looking at the Chelsea bench and thinking, we don't have the players to come on and make an impact here. If we do go 1-2 goals down, we're struggling for options off the bench. I think that is potentially going to change, injuries aside, and yeah, fingers crossed I haven't just cursed this because, like I said before, I've got the worst commentator's curse known to man. But if we can keep these players in this squad injury-free, I think we've got some good depth. We've got great options off the bench. Mudryk, Madueke can really stretch that defense if we are kind of struggling to break down a low block, stretch out the game, bring on those two, utilize their pace. And obviously Pedro Neto as well. Very excited. Hopefully we see him today. I can't imagine we don't see him off the bench at some point, but very excited to see this Chelsea team. And get your score predictions in, guys. I will be doing a little live on the Instagram as well before the game. But yeah, talk to me about your score predictions. Tell me what you think, of this team in general. Obviously, like I said, no Ben Chilwell, no Sterling in the squad. It's a young, a fresh Chelsea. Great to see some of those names in there, but I want to know how you feel as well. And if I'm too optimistic. I don't know. I feel like Chelsea, I don't want to say could go out and win this. I think it's going to be a tough game, and I think realistically we will draw. I think it'll be a 2-2 today. But I think we have the potential here to make a surprise statement, to go out and potentially, with the quality of Nkunku, Palmer and Jackson, surprise a few people today. And I would love it. I don't see many people being optimistic. In my Instagram earlier, when I put it up on the story, very few people were saying that Chelsea were going to win. But, being the underdogs is what we do best. We did it before in Champions League finals against Manchester City and Bayern Munich. We've done it again on the biggest stages. And like I said last year, toe-to-toe with the biggest teams in the Premier League. If we can do that again today, I'll be a very, very happy man. But, of course, we'll have to get into that more in the live match reaction, which will be on this channel. So if you're not already, make sure to like and subscribe. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm so glad to be back. And I'm, a little bit gutted that Mr. C Money couldn't be with me. He's working again today, which means likely the live match reactions will just kind of be me this year. We will try and get an extra stream and with Mr. C Money as well. But yeah, a big game for Chelsea. I don't really know what more else to say. A lot of faith in the manager and the system. Guardiola's been talking him up all week. He's got to implement something here that we haven't seen in pre-season. We've seen glimpses, we've seen kind of shades of what this Chelsea team could be when they play together. But it has been very few and far between. We have not seen 90 minutes of control, 90 minutes of dominance. And there has been a lot of mistakes at the back. I pinpointed it earlier. Wesley Fofana and Colwill is my kind of big area of concern today. And obviously Sanchez in goal. I need to see some improvement from Sanchez immediately from, with the ball at his feet. Otherwise, it's going to be a Sanchez out campaign throughout the season. It's going to be me pushing for Jorgensen. Let me know in the comments as well. I mean, who here thinks that Sanchez starting is the right option when Jorgensen is on the bench? We brought him in supposedly as the new number one option. I don't think giving him 90 minutes or giving him one game against Real Madrid is enough. I don't think we gave him enough of an opportunity to stamp down his stake on this team. And even though we haven't given him enough minutes, I would still say he is better placed to start in goal. I'd still say I feel more comfortable with Philip Jorgensen in goal than Robert Sanchez. If you look at them over the preseason, stands. I would rather still Petrovic in this squad than Sanchez, but he's obviously been frozen out. This is the reality of the situation in a changing era of Chelsea. We haven't really seen a manager come down and lay these markers down. I think that the way that we're trimming the fat, and I know that, Raheem Sterling's team may feel hard done by today and may feel like they are owed some explanation, some sort of clarity. But I mean, you can see the direction this Chelsea team is moving, more youthful, more dynamic. Youth and essentially lowering the wages is the way that these owners are trying to do it. And Sterling is at the very, very top of that wage book. So, having seen us, get rid of Malang Sarr, offloading Kepa, Chilwell, Sterling, Lukaku, we're talking about over $1 million in wages a week. So I'm glad that we are trimming this fat. I'm hopeful that, getting rid of these more experienced players won't come back to bite us, because at the end of the day, the most experienced player in this squad is now Tosin Adarabioyo, who is completely new, never having played a Premier League game for Chelsea. And on the bench today, it's not like we've entrusted him in the starting lineup. It will be interesting to see how this Chelsea team fares, particularly in the latter stages of the season, without that experience and guidance. But that is a problem for another day. That is a conversation, like I said, for later in this season. Glad to see that Happy Hatton agrees with me. Petrovic and Jorgensen are both better than Sanchez. I mean, it will be interesting to see how he plays today, and I will be very vocal about it all over social media if he does make an error that leads to a goal, or if he just has a howler in general. I have made my feelings known about Robert Sanchez for quite some time. And nothing but a 10 out of 10, a game-saving performance today will kind of change my mind as to who would be, who I would want to be the number one goalkeeper next week. But yeah, I think that's about it for the pre-match stream, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we're going to be doing a live match reaction on this channel after the game. As soon as the final whistle goes, I'll try and make it immediately up here. So yeah, make sure to tune into that Two Blues podcast on the Instagram and the TikTok. And yeah, up the Chels. Get your score predictions in the